All right, we are back. I have Ron, Luke, and Ross with me for another episode. How are y'all guys doing this evening?
Outstanding.
Outstanding.
A little tired.
Doing well.
Ron?
It's been
Good
a
day?
rough 24 hours.
Oh, yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get into that later. All right, so first thing off, right off the bat, want to talk about the world of comics and movies. The first thing I want to talk about, which we probably should talk about this a long time ago. Old Flash is or has been in legal troubles, and where DC has thought about scrapping the movie that was made, replacing him with the character from the TV show, not replacing him because it's too much money, or just numerous things that needs to go on. So Ross, have you kept up with all that and what Ezra Miller's been doing and all the trouble that he's been in?
No, I mean, I know about it. I haven't kept up with it by any means, but I know he's been in trouble. And it's caused wreaked a little havoc on production as far as Flash goes. I don't know who they want to replace him or anything like that, if they do want to replace him. But I mean, come on, at this point, do what you need to do. Like, get rid of the guy. I mean, he's bad. In my opinion, he's bad for business. He's not giving a good name to DC right now, and to the Flash character. I mean, somebody else can do the job. If he can't get himself together, then move on. It's that simple. In my mind, it's that simple. I mean, is he not expendable? Is he somebody like we can't replace him? Kind of like Lord have mercy, Black Panther. I don't know why I'm blanking on that.
Oh, Chadwick
Boseman. Somebody like you just don't want to replace. Like it's almost like you can't, like Wolverine. Like
yeah.
You can't replace Wolverine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like my thing is there really hasn't been a Marvel TV series on CW or on Fox. There hasn't been that. There's been Supergirl, there's been Green Arrow, there's been all those different things that have been on the CW, but there's not supposed to be a connection between that and DC, or since the DC movies, where there is connections with the series that have been on Disney Plus and all those other things, with Loki, with WandaVision. There's supposed to be connections. Moon Knight's supposed to be joining the movies. Same way with Miss Marvel, she's going to be in the Marvels. And I've watched the Flash TV show. I haven't watched the last couple seasons. I've heard it's really been down. It's kind of like the whole Green Arrow thing. Kind of when they got rid of that, just kind of killed everything, because Supergirl disappeared. The last couple seasons of Flash have been crap. But I know they'll lose a lot of money. I understand that. But I feel like some people are not going to watch the movie because of just all the trouble. And it's not like just that one thing happened of him being in Hawaii or whatever he did when he stole from people. Other things have come out, and then other things have happened since then. Because I think the three options were they scratch the movie altogether if he doesn't go and receive help. If he will try to go and receive help, then they will publicize the movie. The third option was they will limit how much they publicize. I can't remember what the third option was. So, there's not even a chance. But I'm like, you scrap that Batgirl thing altogether, and some people have been talking about other things that they're scrapped. Like they've talked about, with HBO Max and all that stuff happening, could The Last of Us TV series be scrapped? And think of how much they invested in that because of the games being where they're at.
Another thing is, you don't seem to have a problem with like switching character to Batman characters. People who play Batman,
Well, even this generation has had Ben Affleck and now Pattinson.
Yeah.
You know?
So I mean, if you really want the movie, and he can't cooperate and can't get his life together, then find somebody else who will, who can do character. I mean, you do it. You seem to have no problem doing it in major roles, other major roles, and this is a major role. So just, I mean, people want to see a Flash movie, make it worthwhile, and get somebody who can actually play the character well.
Yeah. Luke, what about you?
I mean, I know that DC is, most Marvel movies tend to gross more than a DC movie, but any publicity is supposed to be good publicity, but in this case, I don't think that's true. I think that they need to, personally, I would love to see them take the actors from the series on TV and give them a shot at the big movie titles. Because as many seasons of The Flash as they made and as many people as watched it, it's not like you're really losing. You wouldn't be losing business. In fact, you probably gain a few more viewers because of it. My only other thought than that is that if he's going to get arrested, it should be for flashing.
Yeah.
Or streaking somewhere,
That would be great headlines. Like you could change that to make that really work in your favor.
Would sell itself.
Yeah. Ryan, what about you?
WB sucks. It's really like the biggest part of it is they're not good. Like as a company right now, everything that they're doing is bad. I actually don't want them to cancel the movie because I know a lot of people have called them to do that. But we've seen why they've gotten rid of movies and TV shows recently. So they would be saving money, but everyone else that worked on it, it's not their fault. Ezra Miller is a piece of trash.
Yeah. I hate it for those other characters too.
Yeah. So I don't want them to release the movie so those people have a chance of getting paid, because I don't know how it always works. I know there is some like upfront money you get, or you get a paycheck over time, but as the movie comes out, more people get paid or finish getting paid. And so to work for so many months, do reshoots, put in all that work, and it potentially all goes away because of one person is not a good thing. I don't know I don't know if there's any way to help them on WB's part, but I also don't trust WB to help them.
Yeah.
So I would prefer them to release the movie just for the sake of everyone else. I would probably still watch the movie. To be quite honest, I've heard everything I've heard about it, like in terms of like the story itself. It's really good. So I would probably watch the movie and everything. And I also think that I honestly think Ezra Miller's paycheck or whatever, however much money he gets left in it, should not go to him, but should go to all of his victims, which there's a lot. Boy, is there a lot of his victims.
Oh yeah.
And I think that would be one of those best case scenarios things. But WB, I'm pretty sure, has already said, or at least basically released without officially releasing, that after this is all said and done, after release, after everything, they're not going to be working with him going forward. Yeah. But that also, I'm not against that whatsoever, but I don't even know what that means, because they don't have any kind of trajectory when it comes to any of their movies, period. Like the only thing that's basically set in stone is Batman and stuff that in movies and TV shows that centers around the specific Batman or the newest Batman movies and everything. But even like a cartoon TV show they got rid of, and it's being shopped around to other places, which they'll pick it up because it's Batman. So, I don't like Ezra Miller. I think a trash human being deserves all the punishment in the world for whatever they get. And then on top of that, I want to see those people that worked on it get paid.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them, whether anyone likes it or not, a lot of them were innocent. Like you can maybe say, well, the director should have known this stuff. Some other people should have known this stuff, but you can't fault the camera crew. You can't fault the lighting. You can't fault the poor saps who have to sit there and edit and edit and edit and re-edit. You can't fault all those people for Ezra Miller. So pay them so that they can live and, you know, do whatever it takes to pay them. That's my take.
Here's the three options for, in case y'all didn't know, in case any listeners. First option is, and this is according to giantfreakingrobot.com. First option is to get Ezra Miller some help. As they would return their family home in Vermont, they would seek help, eventually leading to publicly explaining the behavior that has gone on the past few years. Miller would do the normal press tour for the film after that, and the film would be released as scheduled. The second option would be that Miller options to not seek help, leaving him to be ignored in the press tour. The movie would come out, but Miller would then exit DC and not be asked to return any further entries. The final option is to completely cancel the film, which is the option that we would believe most people are pushing for. And Miller's behavior has been enough to warrant them being replaced in a total reshoot scenario. But it says down here, Ezra was rumored to be seeking help, or rather they agreed to seek help. So, but I still feel like it should be, you know, okay, he's going to do that, so you're going to push him in that press tour. But then again, I don't know. It's just, like you said, it's sad because you scrap something, a bunch of people that are innocent on the situation might not get paid. They could have been in a different movie, different TV series, things like that. It just stinks. Now, about what you were saying about the only for sure thing being Batman, that kind of goes into something else I want to talk about, which is the MCU. First off, before we get into some of the things, I want to talk about Superman being hired, potentially being hired as Dr. Doom is the rumors. Ryan, what have you heard about that?
Who?
Henry Cavill.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard any rumors about that personally. I don't know if I would like him as Dr. Doom, but I probably also wouldn't be against it. There are roles that I would love to see him in.
Well, supposedly
in the MCU, but
on September 11th, that's when the news broke that he was rumored to be cast as Victor Von Doom in Fantastic Four. They were also saying that the cast of Fantastic Four was going to be announced at D23, and all they announced was the director.
There was a lot of rumors for that. I'll be honest, I really thought that information was gonna drop that day, but it didn't. Oh well. I'm sure we'll get it. I'm kind of wondering if they've already got a cast, to be honest with you. And like we're gonna see them. I really believe this. There was, I don't know who said this, but it was a good little theory that like maybe at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp movie that's coming out. I don't remember that's coming out, but I know it's coming out sooner rather than later. That, you know, kind of like a what if they, at the very end of that movie, what if one of those post-credit scenes is the Fantastic Four and they've been around for a while and they just been trapped in the quantum realm and whatnot. And I thought that's like a good way to introduce them, in my opinion. So
yeah.
And it shows that like, hey, this is a team. We don't have to worry about an origin story with them. But they've just been around for a while. So I think that'd be kind of cool. And if that is the case, then I would say that they would definitely have already been cast. I don't know about Doom, because I don't know how you'd factor him into the story at that point, but they will. But but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they've already been cast and already been filmed if they go that route. And then we'll just see them as is. Like John Krasinski, I don't think he's going to be Mr. Fantastic. I think that was just to kind of scratch the fan itch that people had, because a lot of people fan casted him for a long time as Mr. Fantastic. I think he'll be a variant and probably stay that way. I could be wrong. I mean, obviously, but that's what I think. So, but Henry Cavill is Dr. Doom. I don't know. Like, it's, you know, it is what it is. I could see. I definitely think he'll get in the MCU at some point. I just don't know who it'll be.
Yeah. Well, it's like with talking about the fan cast. I remember before X-Men became a movie. I remember one of my comic things I had, who would play all these characters, and Charles Xavier was Patrick Stewart from like the get-go, and like 5 years later, he gets casted, but like every other character is different of who Cyclops would be or Wolverine. I even saw something, it was like, who would the Avengers be if we had the Avengers movie in the 90s? Like Tom Cruise would probably have been, Iron Man. I forgot
Wesley
who would be
Snipes.
Ant-Man.
Wesley Snipes was in it.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
He would have been Black Panther.
so it was just kind of cool seeing that stuff. Luke, what's your take on Henry being cast, if it's true, as Victor Von Doom?
I don't know. In the video games, like whenever it was what was it, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, Von Doom was a major character. But I mean, it's kind of like Batman, to be honest. Like there's already been so many people that have either played in the Fantastic Four or in the remake of Fantastic Four, that it's almost like they're still trying to get it right and they just haven't been able to do it yet.
Yeah.
So, I don't feel like it could do any harm. Give him a try. Maybe he's great. Maybe it ends up being like Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, because most people are like, well, he's such a comedic actor that it's going to be terrible. He's not going to be any good in a more serious or
Superhero kind
action
of role.
hero role.
Yeah.
And then he killed it. Like he came out and was just absolutely perfect for Ant-Man. So maybe that's how it goes here too.
Yeah. Ross, what about you?
Oh, I agree with Luke. Like, I mean, what's the worst that could happen? You've already made several Fantastic Fours and they were flops. They stunk, and I mean,
Well, I don't think the original one stunk.
I mean,
it wasn't bad. It just
was terrible. But I mean, obviously, it's not. I mean, is the first one actually canon with the MCU right now, with like the
Every MCU movie that's ever been made is technically canon at this point.
Technically, yeah.
Even Howard the Duck.
Because of the multiverse.
Yes.
Yeah, technically. And since they've bought all the rights and stuff like that.
So
because like the last Fantastic Four that was made, Stan Lee didn't even get, he usually has like little partakes of like how you should do this scene or what's your advice on this or how should we do, and he wasn't even allowed to be a part of that. And so
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm in agreement with Luke. Like, I mean, just give him a shot, see how it goes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it'd be good. I mean, he's good Superman. Why can't he be a good Victor Von Doom?
Yeah. Like, it would be kind of cool seeing him playing that role of evil,
Chris Evans. Chris Evans was the Flame.
Yeah.
The whatever, and then he became Captain America.
Yeah, going from like cocky boy toy kind of thing to standing up for what's right and all that stuff.
And obviously, we're not going to have a crossover between DC and Marvel, but I mean, he played Superman. Now he can play a evil, a villain.
Yeah,
I think it'll be good. I mean, I think they obviously gotten so much better now with making their movies and TV shows. And you're gonna have haters no matter what. You have those people that find something wrong with anything and everything. They have to find something. They can't just enjoy it.
No, I mean, there were also people out there that thought Robert Pattinson was going to be the best choice for a Batman character. So after Ben Affleck, I mean, not to toot his horn too much or whatever, but if I have to pick between the two, Ben Affleck is clearly the more Batmanish, like even in real life almost.
Robert Pattinson, fantastic Batman, by the way.
Well, I haven't seen the movie, so but
It's a
he's
pretty
just
good movie. Long movie. Maybe too long.
Well,
It's a
but
good movie.
here's my thing about that though. So like ever since the originals movies, you know, I remember some people saying, well, Christian Bale, you know, he's not a Michael Keaton, and everybody's like, oh, he was probably the best one. And then some people said the same thing about Ben Affleck. Oh, Ben Affleck, oh, he's not gonna be good. And then all of a sudden he's the best one. And then people say the same thing. And then it's kind of like every time we've had a Batman, people say, oh, he's been the best one. I'm like, but yet we were criticizing him. Like, I don't know. So like
Yeah.
I feel like the next person, it's gonna be, I know this is just an exaggeration, but like Justin Bieber is gonna be next Batman 5 years from now, and people are gonna say, oh, why we got him? And then people are like, oh yeah, he was great in that role. Like, it doesn't make sense. Well,
I actually really like I think almost every single Batman or the person that's played Batman, I've liked them in their own way. Maybe except Clooney.
yeah, I didn't.
yeah. For me, that was almost like farcical.
Yeah. But that's like, and I chalk that up to the story, more of the story than
I get it,
the
because
characterization. But Batfleck is a really good Batman. Like,
well, like this last Batman, it's different. And see, that's another thing. Like, you have the Dark Knight, and then you have Ben Affleck's Batman. Like, it's kind of like reading different views of comics. You had like the Uncanny X-Men, then you have the X-Men, you have Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man. It's like sometimes it's different characters, and it's still Batman. You know, I also saw something where somebody said, well, I don't like watching Marvel movies because they're too dark. I'm like, well, have you seen anything with DC? Like, every setting
DC
seems like dark. Like when you go like with Spawn, and kind of where the origin of how Superman, you know, his planet fighting, and then the whole situation with Batman and Gotham City, like that whole situation is not good. But anywho, all right, so continue on with Marvel. Has anybody not seen She-Hulk? You have not seen it at all?
Not yet.
Oh, Ross.
I didn't got time to sit down and watch things much anymore.
Killing
But
a small.
But it's not even really long. It's not like, it's like 20. Isn't it like only been like 25 minutes each episode? Which
yeah.
Yeah,
it's been good, but it's been disappointing on that.
I want to say something about that, because I have a legitimate gripe against Marvel when it comes to these TV shows. I don't mind when they say, hey, this is going to be a 30-minute long show. Okay, that's fine. Whatever. 30-minute long show to me means at least 25 minutes of actual content and 5 minutes of credits, not like 10 minutes of credits. I hate that. Like, you know, especially if there's not going to be anything like after credit thing. And so like when you get down, like watching this last week's episode, which, you know, I like She-Hulk, to be honest with you. It's just like the comics. In that way. But
Yeah,
like,
I saw
we finished the show and it's like 8 minutes left, and I'm like, oh cool, maybe there's like an after credit scene. No. Like, and they've done this with, it's not just this show they've done it with, it's every single piece of content they put on Disney
some
Plus.
of the shows haven't been less than 30 minutes though.
Well, I'm saying what I'm getting at is that a lot of their shows that they've put on there, they've said like this is how long they are, and they're really not that long. They're a lot shorter, and it's just like a lot of
Well,
credits.
it's just like going to a movie and saying the movie's 2.5 hours. It's not 2.5 hours.
Yeah, but I don't really want. That's my thing. Like with a TV show, I don't want that much credits. Like,
yeah.
So that's my gripe against these shows. I like the shows. Like, it's just I just wish they were.
These shows have a lot more in it than, you know, the normal like Big Bang Theory and stuff like that, where the credits just run through in 15 seconds. You know, but like, you know, those 30-minute shows are 20 minutes on top, you know, with all the commercials. But so without getting too detailed in it, so Luke and I were talking about this the other night. You know, they kind of hinted about, for one, I think we talked about in the last podcast about how nobody on Earth has talked about the giant creatures sticking out of the water from the internals. So
Demon.
they pointed that out in a newspaper article in the She-Hulk series. And then they pointed out that a man with claws gets into a bar fight. So my thing is, She-Hulk's supposed to be in this time frame. So since it's addressing a bar fight, is it another bar fight that Wolverine has gotten into? Or is what we saw Wolverine get in a bar fight with back in 2003 or whenever we saw him, was that actually in 2020? Just curious, which again, like we were saying earlier, anything can happen, like what Earth was that on or things like that. Because I've also heard different things about the Ant-Man and Kang being here and how that's going to go in. So Ross, you need to catch up with She-Hulk.
I've got
been pretty good.
So I will say that be wary of what they dangle in front of your face, because they could just be messing with you. And I say that because when the trailer dropped before the show release, there was a lot of people kind of had a conniption fit about, like a good conniption fit about Ghost Rider, because one of Ghost Rider's personalities, or one of the hosts of Ghost Rider is Johnny Blaze. Well, there's this picture in her room or somewhere that she's at, but there's this picture where, if you look at it from far away, it looks like it says Johnny Blaze. Well, that episode, there was a character named Donnie Blaze, and he had nothing to do with Ghost Rider stuff. And I realized, I was like, man, they're messing with you. And they do. This show messes with the audience.
Well, I saw a lot of people not like it because they're like, well, if she's going to sit there, and it's not really a spoiler, but if she's going to sit there and talk to the camera and stuff, she ain't Deadpool, da 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 da. I'm like,
she did it before Deadpool.
Yeah. Have you, and I get it. A lot of people never read a comic and watched Iron Man, and everything is not word for word and story for story. We talked about this before. Ultron was created by Ant-Man. I can't remember his name.
Hank Pym.
Yes, that guy. But in this connection, Tony Stark created Ultron. But so it's kind of like that, where that's just her, where she's gonna, break that wall and look at the camera and talk. Like her situation, it's not even like a comedic thing where she's not really talking about Mark Ruffalo. She's not there talking about Hugh Jackman like Deadpool does and sits there and makes those kind of remarks. But like I said, it's just how it is. And then again, you can't expect every character to be just like the previous character. Like Anthony Mackie's Captain America is not going to be just like Chris Evans. It's going to be his own version, know. And War Machine, there's supposed to be the Armor series coming out, and you can't expect him to be like the new Iron Man. Like in the Spider-Man movie, he said, "You're not Tony Stark."
Man,
so
this show, one of the things I appreciate, like I said, that the show messing with the audience and everything. So on the episode that that certain character, I don't know if I want to spoil it, but that certain character showed up. It's been showing up in all Marvel movies and TV shows recently. When they announced this character, I got giddy because I love the character so much. He's so much fun. And I'm not joking. I was like, oh my gosh. I was sitting there in my chair, just excited about it. And she instantly turns to the camera and says something about, I bet you just got excited about this, didn't you? I feel like I've been read like a book. So I've enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. Is the story great? I don't know if I'd call the story great, but it's a super fun show. So and I'm excited for more, and I'm excited for another potential movie or TV show. I don't know which one they're going to go with.
What is it?
That this show has already set up in the first episode, and that has to do with the Hulk.
Talking about the World War Hulk possibility.
Yeah. I that has to go somewhere. I don't know where that's going to go and what movie. Maybe that'll be another movie on itself, like how Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness was like a Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch movie. So maybe it'll be like that, since there's like some issues with the Hulk licensing and everything. But
yeah,
I'm super excited about where all that goes. Which, by the way, another Hulk character is going to be a main villain in one of the next. The guy from the Incredible Hulk movie, the one that the mastermind guy. He's supposed to be he's supposed to be the villain of some movie coming up. I don't know if it's the Captain America movie.
Yes,
or is it Thunderbolts?
Captain America.
Which I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because I like it how they are connecting back to that. So talking about that, so some announcements are, and I just want to get y'all's take on this. So did anybody see the trailer for the Black Panther movie? So like I said, I know it's kind of like a little teaser thing. They didn't show too much, but I like that. I thought it was pretty emotional because it seemed like that was the base of it. So I'm kind of excited about that. But I saw the cast of Thunderbolts. So I'm really excited about that. Did anybody see who the cast was?
I mean, I know most of them.
So you got
I think there was a little bit of surprises that weren't in there.
Who?
I mean, they could be villains, obviously. But Zemo wasn't on there, which I thought was a little bit surprising.
Well, so and also, he wasn't in there, but he was still talked about.
Okay.
Like so Taskmaster, Agent, or U.S. Agent, Winter Soldier, Yelena from Black Widow, Black Widow's dad. God, I can't remember his name.
Red Guardian.
Yes. Ghost from the Ant-Man movies. Like I said, they're all supposed to be in there, and then Julia Louis-Dreyfus playing the Valentina. She's supposed to be in it when she was in that, because when she shows up at the end of the Winter Soldier series, she was recruiting agent or U.S. agent. But yeah, Zemo is supposed to be leading the team. That's all the things I've seen. He's supposed to be leading the team. So
I think it feels like it's going to be Yelena, which is fine with me. She's a really good character. I figure that Zemo and Abomination will be in that movie in some capacity. Like that's what that's what I'm thinking. Unless they've decided to put Abomination somewhere else. I don't think they're done with that character. There's really no reason to be done with that character.
Yeah.
Because they've been sort of playing him up, and I don't think they would just play him up for She-Hulk and then just be done with him.
Yeah.
And everything.
I mean, he's living with the 7 soulmates, so
it's true. It's true.
Ross, some other things that were talked about was Ant-Man and Wasp coming out, the Marvels movie, which is going to have, Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, Rambo. She's going to be in it. So, and then you have Captain America: New World Order. So those are some of the next 3 big movies coming out. So what are your thoughts about that? Excited, not excited?
Dude, I'm excited for all of it, man. Like, just another 4 or 5 years of movies and TV shows that we can all enjoy. Like Thunderbolts. I mean, I hope people are not going to be like, oh, this is the, DC or Marvel version of Suicide Squad. It's like, dude, it's going to be awesome. I mean, everybody loved Yelena or Florence Pugh in Hawkeye. I thought she was great in that. Bringing Ghost in. Red Guardian. he was a good character.
Like, I'm excited about Ghost, because no one's really heard from her. All these other characters, people kind of knew who it was, and
I'm kind of, I mean, and I'm excited to see like where Valentina, where they're going to take her and like U.S. Agent. I don't know why. I think U.S. Agent is going to be a good character. The IMDb, they've got it listed as a group of supervillains. I mean, depending on like where the story arc goes, I don't know who they're defining as a supervillain. I mean, I don't think U.S. Agent is a supervillain, or he's not supposed. Is he supposed to be? I don't think so. But I think it's just gonna be fun, man. Like I said, I just don't like. I understand that every movie and every TV show is gonna have its critic. Like people who just can't find enjoyment in anything. Like a big thing right now is how like hardcore Lord of the Rings fans hate the new series. Like, can't stand it by any means. It's like, like you can't find, like people just can't find enjoyment in any Marvel movie or any TV show that comes out. I always got to find something wrong with it. Like, I mean, I'm just here for the ride, man. Like, I'm here to enjoy it and watch as the story plays out, how it all connects just the same way it did the first decade. So, man, let's just hop on the train and take a seat and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, like I said, I'm excited, and I, so my thing is, it's going to be tough to compete with Robert Downey, Chris Evans, and I know Thor is still continuing a little bit. We're still getting Mark Ruffalo potentially being pushed for something bigger right there. I don't know, wanting to see where Hawkeye goes from here, but like I said, not seeing Black Widow anymore unless we get some kind of prequel or something like that. But like, I'm still excited just because of me loving comics, and there are some comics that I've read where I know some of this stuff, but like I said, I'm excited to go with that.
Another thing is too, it's like you just mentioned, like it's gonna be hard to compete with like Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
To that is don't compete with him. Don't that era is ended now. I mean, yeah, could they bring him back through the multiverse? Sure. But that was the first 10 years. That got wrapped up. Like, let this be something new. You don't try to compete with them. That's your past. Now you move on to the future. That's what paved the way for this.
Yeah.
You don't have to compete with that. You don't have to try to up it. It was great in and of itself. Now this can be great in and of itself. Just do it justice, man. Give it your best effort and try to make it something worth watching and something worthwhile. So that way you can watch it and you can remember the last 10 years and be excited for the next 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, because the next generations of people coming through.
Like I've got a friend, and he's like, I stopped watching after, Avengers Endgame, and everything else is just stupid. I'm like, why? Why do you think that way?
Well, but here's my thing about that. If that's the case, then we shouldn't watch Jurassic World. You should be like, well, that series died. Nope, I'm done. It's a whole new theme park, whole new situation of disasters. They even tied it in, talking about the old park, bringing in the original people, in the last movie. But, and then you have a new Indiana Jones coming out. Now, it's not another Indiana Jones. It's still Harrison Ford. But it's just one of those things, Like, my thing is, then, it's just like, then don't go see it.
This is it's our past that moved us on to the future, man. Like, you can't keep living in it and think, well, this is all there ever should have been.
Yeah. Well, I think that's going to be it for our DC Marvel talk. Has everybody seen Thor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So want to talk about that. Luke had to go, so we'll catch up with him later. But yeah. So we'll take a small break and then we'll be back with our next segment. All right, we are back. So Luke and Ross had to go, so it's just me and Ryan with you now. So we're going to jump into the world of sports. Couple things real quick before we get into bigger topics. I want to go into again really quick. I want to go into the SEC. Talking about college football. I know you said you wanted to talk about something, but real quick, I want to talk about maybe some predictions of where teams are at. Okay. So right now, you have LSU and Arkansas 1-0 in conference. Mississippi State 0-1. No one else has played a conference game. So Arkansas, Alabama, and Ole Miss are the only ones undefeated. In the West, then you have the East. The only ones undefeated are Georgia, Kentucky, and Tennessee, with Georgia, Kentucky undefeated, Florida 0-1, and the only team to play 2 conference games is South Carolina, who is 0-2. Vanderbilt, Missouri have not played a conference game. So, with that said, I still feel like Alabama's a team to beat. Like, I don't know, just until they finish probably 3rd in the SEC West, I can't root against them for anything. They're always going to be the favorite to me, you know. I'm not sold on Ole Miss. I'm really not sold on Texas A&M. Like that's my thing there. I think LSU just lucked out against Mississippi State.
Okay. When it comes to the West, and this is specifically just the West, obviously. When it comes to the West, this is 100% Homer talk. This is 100% Homer talk. I'll admit that straight up. If Arkansas can figure out their secondary, then and beat Alabama, I think Arkansas has right now the best chance out of all of the schools in the West to beat Alabama. And I actually do agree that it runs through Alabama. You don't get to say you're better than Alabama until you beat Alabama. And most schools haven't beat Alabama for 19 seasons almost. It's like maybe like that's what the top is. Because they've only lost like 1 or 2 games since Nick Saban's been the coach there. And whatnot. I don't think Texas A&M is good. I think Texas A&M gets they get a lot of credit for just being Texas A&M at this point, which is shocking because Texas A&M has had it's like the same thing. They went 9-1 one year, but they always have about the same record, around 8-4. In fact, my understanding that Kevin Sumlin, was it Kevin Sumlin? I think it's the wrong person. Kevin Sumlin. Mm-hmm. Kevin Sumlin has currently a better record in the same amount of seasons than Jimbo Fisher did. Yes, they won yesterday. They beat Miami. I don't know if Miami's a good team yet. I'll be honest with you. They could be. Texas A&M could have just bounced back. You mean you're playing, is it Kyle Field or Soldier Field? Not Soldier Field. That's where the Bears are playing. But you're playing in their domain. They did have an embarrassing loss. It doesn't surprise me that they figured a way to bounce back. But even that, from what I understood, I didn't watch the game. But from what I understood, both teams were just still pretty bad on the field yesterday.
How about yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both Miami and Texas A&M. And it's kind of shocking that Texas A&M won in the end. I don't know what happened with LSU and Mississippi State. From my understanding there, Mike Leach was like trying to do something. I don't really know what he was trying to do, but it didn't work. And they wound up just kind of screwing up in the end. I don't even think LSU's that good of a team. So it was kind of a shocking thing to me.
And they're pretty close on the outside looking in on the top 25 too.
Yeah.
And I don't even think they should, LSU.
Oh yeah.
I don't even think they should be that high.
Well, it's just like what Florida did when they beat
let's not talk about that yet.
Let's
save that. Let's save that for a second. Let's just stay where we're at in the West.
Okay. Now, I don't know about Ole Miss. I'm gonna give them. I haven't really been following them. They've played. Who have they played already?
Don't know. Like there's nothing big enough. I don't think.
Yeah, but I mean, Ole Miss. It's Lane Kiffin team. Lane Kiffin teams are always sneaky good. I don't know how good they're gonna be until they start playing some real competition. I mean, you can't pick. That's another thing about conferences, and that's something I want to bring up one day, because and I'm not trying to say Arkansas has had a tough schedule or has a tougher schedule, but I was looking at just the list of coaches that Arkansas is facing this year, and I was like, good night. The people that are on this are all like really good coaches. Well, most of them. I'm not gonna say every single one of them, but the people on the list were really good coaches, and it's just like, gosh, I wish we would stop figuring out how to like play all the really good coaches every single year.
Yeah.
But now here's the biggest issue with Arkansas right now is their secondary. The secondary is bad. It's bad for a couple of different reasons. One reason why their secondary is bad is because of some talent and because you're having to replace guys that have gotten hurt, and we're just thin in secondary right now. That's not a good thing. Tackling has also been an issue. Watching their games, one of the ways Barry Odom's defense is designed, it's not necessarily designed for you. It's kind of designed in a way, which I'm not sure how big of a fan I am of this. It's designed in a way where it's okay if you catch the ball, as long as you catch the ball like in certain spots. And a lot of these times, these guys will catch the ball and they'll break the tackle. And it's like, it's just really frustrating to watch the break and tackle, because like, then it's like, oh, well, they're going to get the extra 5 yards now, or the extra 2 yards, or the extra yard. And it's really frustrating to watch that. If they clean up that, they have a legitimate shot to win the West. That's just the truth of the matter. They can beat Alabama. They can beat every single team that they play this year in the regular season. It's just the truth. I mean, it's, it's kind of nice. Their offensive line is good enough. Their defensive line is playing good enough. They're putting up a lot of yards, but they have to do it. And when you're playing Alabama, whether you like it or not, you're playing a really good quarterback. I'm talking like Bryce Young is a really good quarterback. I can't wait to watch that dude in the NFL, because he's got really good decision-making skills. And he's really athletic. Like he's almost sneaky athletic in a way. So I really like watching him play. Like those last 2-3 games he played last year, the Auburn game, the Georgia championship game, or both the championship games, like he played objectively good games.
Yeah.
And I think he earned the Heisman. We could argue about that in another way, but like I think a couple of those games are like, okay, I can understand why he won the Heisman and everything. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the West, I think Alabama is still a favorite. I would probably put Arkansas at number 2, and then followed by whoever you want to have at the rest. It could be a combination of any of those people whatsoever. So that's the West, in my opinion.
So the SEC media poll, their predictions was Bama, A&M, Arkansas, Ole Miss, LSU, Mississippi State, and Auburn.
Oh gosh, Auburn.
Those
out.
Those bottom 3, yeah, those are just up for the grabs. I'm just still not sold on A&M. Like, I don't know. And it's not just because they got beat by Appalachian State. That's not it. I don't know. I just don't agree with it.
You'll see
So-
it. You'll see this weekend.
So
Like it'll be the toughest game they've played, and I know they've already lost. I'm not saying that they didn't play. You know, they will not play an offensive line like Arkansas's in the West for the rest of the year. I think Arkansas is the best offensive line. I think Arkansas could make a run in the West. I'm not saying in the whole SEC. In the West, I think Arkansas is the best offensive line. In the West, I think Arkansas is a pretty good, which I'm a little bit shocked about, believe it or not. I think Arkansas has got a pretty good defensive line. And we've got really good linebackers. Now, everyone else is suspect in a way, but if we come and play our A game, if Arkansas comes and play this A game and A&M still wins, I mean, I'm going to hate it, but that'll show, I think that'll show how good A&M is progressing, but I'm not a fan of theirs either. I think, you know, let's be real. I think a lot of this comes down to, I like what everyone else says. You can buy a team, but you can't make that team perform. And I think Jimbo bought a team. Well, not Jimbo per se, but I think they bought a team. And we've already seen how many cracks are in that team. I mean, I don't know if I'm not going to go into the drama, but the things that happened just this past week that got a lot of people suspended for a game is it's pretty bad, like pretty bad. And I think that just shows where they're at.
yeah. So here's their first place votes. Alabama with 177, A&M with 3, Arkansas with 1. So let's jump to the East. Before we talk about the predictions, let's go with what you were fixing to say a while ago. Florida beat Utah. Utah was quote unquote supposedly good, right? Utah is currently ranked 13th in a poll and 14th in a poll. And they were what? Top 10? I don't know. Let me see. So that was 2 weeks ago when this happened. Is that right? So let's see. I'm going to look back to the preseason poll. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. In the coaches poll, Florida was ranked 30th coming into the season. Okay. I can't see where they were. I can't see where they were in the AP, but I'm sure we'll say 30. But how do you jump from 30
I have an answer
to
for that.
number 12?
I have an answer for that. And it's actually something I saw just a little bit ago, and I retweeted it on Twitter. It's a tweet by a guy named Danny Cannell. I'm not really familiar with anything he does, but he works for CBS Sports.
Oh yeah, I know. He's not a fan.
But I really like his tweet because it says the latest AP top 25 rankings, and it goes from 1 to 25, and every ranking has what it says in the 1 to 25 ranking. Going down is, we don't watch every game. Biggest brands get favorable treatment. Don't expect us to ever admit we were wrong in preseason. Insert leftover SEC team. And if that's not one of the truest statements, Florida is a big brand. They win one game and then all of a sudden they get knocked, or they get shot up to number 12.
Well,
that's just the truth.
Let's think about this.
If Texas had won, if Texas had beat Alabama, I guarantee it, they would have been number 5 in the rankings. They would have shot all the way up to number 5. And after not being ranked, they lost that game and were still ranked. Did they deserve it? Maybe, but I almost guarantee it. If Texas had beat Alabama, they would have shot all the way up to number 5, or at least number 5. And that would have happened.
And I hate that, Because
me too.
the other thing is their quarterback jumped up to number 1 in the Heisman ranking.
Yeah.
And he has done crap since then.
Isn't the quarterback hurt now?
No, I don't think so, unless he got hurt late in the game.
No, I think he got hurt in the Alabama game. And because I don't think he played.
What quarterback you talking about? I'm talking about Florida's quarterback.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was still thinking about Texas.
But
no, you're talking about that quarterback is also very bad. AK, I forgot his name. Anthony Richardson, is that his name?
Tim Tebow wannabe.
Yeah, he's horrible.
But
they were comparing. They were saying things like, "Man, I don't like to dog on people because it's not his fault that people said this kind of stuff." And I'm sure he's doing his best to get better. So I'm not dogging on him personally. But you're right. The things that people said about him, he's Tim Tebow come again. He's Cam Newton. He's what every wannabe Cam Newton thinks that they are. He's the real deal. And as an Arkansas fan who loves KJ Jefferson, who makes pretty good decisions and who can run the ball, who has modeled his game, who's actually said he's modeled his game after Cam Newton, I'm like, let's not be sitting here doing this kind of thing, Florida. And there's a lot of good quarterbacks in the SEC, and your quarterback's not one of them.
Yeah. But and this is kind of sidetracking, but Stetson Bennett, he's ranked in the top 5 for the Heisman thing. And I'm like, but he's not the reason why Georgia's where they're at. You know what I mean?
No, I watched that South Carolina game.
Well, I'm just even talking about last year. I'm like,
yeah,
he's a
system. He's a system quarterback.
Yes, he is what Greg McElroy used to be for Alabama. He's what can't remember his first name, but Coker used to be at Alabama. They won championships there, but they weren't the Tuas. They weren't the Jalen Hurts. But then my thing is Bryce Young is number 3. Why can't he be number 1? Why isn't it his to lose? Because Troy Smith, it was his to lose. Darren McFadden didn't stand a chance until Troy Smith would lose a game. As soon as he loses a game, then Darren McFadden would probably jump that gun. But it's like Darren McFadden has no chance. But then, just because it's Lincoln Riley, Caleb Williams is now the best bet. But then, also Spencer Rattler is supposed to have been the best bet and the savior for South Carolina, and you see what crap he's done. But then that CJ Stroud is the go-to guy in Ohio State. And I'm like, okay, he's what has he done?
Yeah.
And
as again, this is a very Homer talking point of mine, but because I've watched all of their games and obviously I'm going to, but yeah, when it comes to these people, and maybe if we beat Texas A&M and we beat Alabama, or we have some really good games down the stretch, they'll finally start talking about him. And especially if he plays well.
Well, but the thing is, if you're talking about KJ Jefferson, he's going to have to put up crazy numbers every game,
Yeah, I understand that. But you're talking about some of these kind of guys that are system quarterbacks, they're plug and play. And I'm not dissing them. I want to make that clear. I like Stetson Bennett. He's he makes good decisions for the most part. But he makes pretty good decisions. And he's also got a heck of a cast around him. That dude, that Brock Bowers, is Brock Bowers? Is that his name? It could be wrong somewhere else. That tight end is just so stinking good. That kind of person, that he's got that kind of people around him. But what KJ does versus what some of these system quarterbacks does is when he has to go out there and make a play, he makes the play, or he does his darndest to make the play. And, it's just throw it up and someone will catch it kind of thing. And, there's a lot of factors that go into it. And I'm not just, and that could be its whole own segment, just talking about what goes into the Heisman race and why the Heisman race probably doesn't justify every little detail, because there's other players on the field that you have to sit there and think, man, maybe this guy's good, but it's essentially at the end of the day a quarterback contest, which is unfortunate. Now it has become more of a quarterback contest with some running backs thrown in there. But you're right. You're right. There's a lot of these guys are system, and because they're system, they get oh man, they're really good and everything. And it's not taking away from their talent, but I mean,
but the only one I see in there that doesn't put up those numbers is Stetson Bennett.
Yeah.
Caleb is done well, is and he fits what Lincoln Riley's doing, but like Ohio State, it's always been like if Lincoln Riley was back in Oklahoma, it'd probably be that quarterback. But it's always been a quarterback at Ohio State that's gotten the things, and here recently it's been Alabama's quarterbacks and not the running backs.
Well, that's like, let's talk about another quarterback that's not going to be in this conversation most likely, especially after this last weekend. I don't know how his numbers, but let's talk about putting up crazy numbers. You take someone like Will Rogers. Imagine they went undefeated this year, and they're like, "Oh man, look at Will Rogers' number." We were talking about that early. I was talking about that with some folks earlier today, and I was like, I don't hate Will Rogers. I think he's a good quarterback. I kind of ready to see what he's going to be like in the NFL. But when we talk about Will Rogers' crazy numbers, we have to, we do have to consider the fact that Mike Leach's offense it's an air raid offense. And a lot of his pass plays, yes, they are pass plays, but at the same time, you could maybe make an argument that they're glorified run plays. And so like his stats are obviously going to go up. They're obviously going to be high because of what their offense is specifically designed to do. And everything, and like, and if that is all they're looking at, then, that's the kind of guy that would run away with it in spades, and everything. And that's kind of unfortunate because again, it's like, if you're just doing like a 2-yard shovel pass every single time and the running back's doing all the work, why do you deserve the reward? Why doesn't the running back or the wide receiver that you shovel pass it to, why don't they deserve the reward instead? So yeah. I would, as an Arkansas fan, I want to see an Arkansas player win it. If I was just like if I was a neutral football fan with no team, would be the weirdest thing ever. I don't know how. I don't think I would care anything about the Heisman just because knowing what goes into it, and sometimes how people get it, because there's always going to be a slight bit of favoritism. So if like Stetson Bennett won this year, I'm not saying that Georgia's not a good team. They are a pretty good team. They're a pretty good team. I don't want to take that away from them. They're a really good team. But, if Stetson Bennett won it this year, I would say absolutely he won it because of popularity, because of Georgia's popularity, and because of the cast that he has around him. And I don't think he has to struggle too much with the cast of characters he has around him. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so the East predictions were Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Florida, US or South Carolina, Mizzou, and Vandy. First place voting. Georgia, 172. Kentucky, 4. Tennessee, 1. South Carolina, 3, which they are 5th on this list, which I'm thinking, well, they're probably thinking Spencer Rattler would be the savior, right? Vanderbilt got a first place vote. Did someone mess up?
No,
Was
you
it
know
like
what?
the Trump elections and people were like, oh, I had a dead person?
No.
Like
good job, Vandy.
like it had been somebody's mom that voted. Like that made no sense to me. But so my thing is with that, I don't know. Like
the East makes me mad.
Well, Kentucky's played Miami, Ohio, which and they played Youngstown, but they played Youngstown and only beat them 31-0. I feel like that should be like the Akron of Tennessee. But Kentucky beat Florida. But this was a number 20th ranked Florida who just got beat after being number 12. So it's like maybe they're overrated. So that shouldn't look that great. So now Kentucky's number 8.
Florida is absolutely overrated. And Kentucky, didn't they kind of struggle with Florida?
26-16. Yeah. Like it was a 3-point lead, 16-13 lead for Florida. And then Kentucky scored 10 and 3 in the third and fourth.
I'm not saying Kentucky isn't good. I think there's a lot of promise to Kentucky. Period. I don't think they're the second best team in the East. I do think that probably goes to Tennessee. And my reasoning behind that is because of what Tennessee's already done this year and whatnot. Now, when I watched their first game, which was that a Thursday night game?
Mm-hmm.
And when I watched their first game, like all teams or most teams, I saw some things that they definitely needed to clean up, and I'm sure they have, or they're on their way to cleaning up them. But you went into Pitt. Pitt's not a bad team. And you beat them in overtime. You came back to beat them in overtime. That's pretty impressive in my book, whether you like it or not. I think Tennessee will probably, I kind of think Tennessee will most likely torch Florida this weekend, to be honest with you, because especially since it's in Neyland Stadium.
I really do too. I feel like it's not going to be close.
Yeah. I like Tennessee's. I like their offense. I don't know much about their defense, so I'm not going to say anything about it.
The defense has been pretty aggressive. I've liked the defense.
Yeah, but I like their offense and everything. Now, again, this is what's unfortunate. South Carolina is a team. And they're an odd team. So, I know why South Carolina scored more points than it looks like last week when they played Arkansas. And I also watched the South Carolina Georgia game, and I saw the moment that South Carolina gave up against Georgia. Like, it was pretty early on, and just a lot of things went just south so quickly, and you could tell they were just done by halftime and wound up only scoring 7 points in the game. I'm not saying that's a litmus test. I'm not saying South Carolina is a litmus test or anything like that. But I don't think Georgia has played a team yet that's truly going to challenge them on the field.
Yeah.
Now, everyone could say, oh, well, Oregon and Georgia, look at that game and then look what Georgia did, or look what Oregon did to BYU. That's a pretty fair response. My counter argument to that is the first time head coach playing against the national championship team, and a lot of things can go wrong pretty quickly for a first time head coach. And once you get your footing in, you start seeing how the team can get better. So, I don't know, let's say that Oregon and Georgia played right now. Am I saying that Oregon's good enough to beat Georgia? I'm not saying that. I am saying, however, that there might be a different story today than it was 2 weeks ago. I just think that's the truth. I think that's the truth of most teams. It's your first game with a new head coach, and you're basically rebuilding, and you have Bo Nix. Let's be real with that too. Bo Nix can come out there and torch your team, or Bo Nix can come out there and play the worst game he's ever played in his whole lifetime.
Yeah.
You're not, it's never in between. So, maybe you get Bo Nix on a good day. He could potentially torch Georgia. I'm not saying he would. I'm saying he potentially could and everything. So, maybe that first game doesn't really show how good a team is. So, when Georgia plays Tennessee or Kentucky, I think we'll finally see how good they truly are and everything. And they might be just like the new Alabama this year, and they've just reloaded it and they're going to win a national championship. But
yeah,
until they've played someone, because a lot of these teams haven't played people yet. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Until they play someone, then I'm not super sold on everything. Like, I thought the same thing with Alabama. Everyone, like, when Alabama played Utah State, everyone's like, man, Alabama, it's Georgia and Alabama and everyone else in the whole nation. I'm like, they played Utah State. Like, I'm not saying Alabama's not a good team, but they played Utah State. Let's maybe not crown the national championship after you play a cupcake team and destroy them.
Well, it's like somebody made a comment to me. They're like, Tennessee win? I'm like, yeah. They're like, what was the score? And I was like, 63-6. They're like, oh, who they play? I'm like, oh, they played Akron. They're like, oh yeah, they didn't play anybody like Arkansas played this week, and they didn't play. And I'm like, I know,
man, I'm not that game.
I'm not sitting here going, we did 63, did it? Like who Arkansas played is better than Akron.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sitting here going, ha ha, we beat our team by 10 times the points. No, Akron sucks.
I wish we beat Bob Petrino by 10 times the points.
But anyways, that's beside the point. Well, we'll stop right. Well, let me ask you this real quick. Real quick thought. 12-team playoff. What do you think?
I like it. I like it a whole lot.
So go ahead.
You know, it'll be kind of neat to see how it unfolds when it comes down to it. I would think that, you know, it's 1 through 12 in the rankings, but I mean, I could be wrong about that.
Well,
not 1 through 12, because 12 it's 12-team playoff. Yeah, 12-team playoff. So it could be 1 through 12. You know, and we'll see how that kind of all unfolds. But I like it. You know, I don't, you know, when it comes down to 12-team playoff, like right now, you have bragging rights just getting to the playoffs. Like, quite frankly, I want Arkansas. I think Arkansas has a chance. I think there's plenty of SEC teams that actually have a chance to get to the playoffs. I'll put Tennessee in that rank. I'll put Tennessee in that bracket as well, and I'll even give Kentucky the nod there. But in
that's
my
not
opinion,
even this year, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know, right now it's like it's ultimate bragging rights just to get to the playoffs. I don't think you can deny that whatsoever. And if one of these teams that haven't been there yet get there, they'll be able to recruit from that from here on out. The first year, the teams that get in the 12, when the 12-team playoff happens, the first year that happens, then, you know, there'll be a lot of bragging rights. But as we continue going forth, you know, at some point it'll be like, you know, you made it to the 12-team playoff, but did you make it to the second round? You know, like it'll be kind of like, you know, like it is now in basketball, you know, Elite Eight's really good. Sweet 16's pretty good, but you know, you make it to the Final Four, that's awesome. That's super awesome.
Yeah, well, so my thing is, it's just like when they decided to do the BCS back in '98, and then they decided to fix it up, and then they decided to go to this college football playoff. It's still not going to solve anything.
Yeah.
Like, now we're going to have 3, possibly 4 SEC teams.
Oh, we definitely will.
And so it's like so now we're going to have a third of the thing. Now, yes, we don't have half of it. We don't have 2 teams in it, and possibly an all SEC championship, and we're going to only 33% of the bracket. But the thing is, what if the Final Four ends up being the SEC?
Yeah.
What if 3 of the 4? And it's like, it's not going to solve anything. I wish they would everybody would just understand this isn't going to solve anything. There's going to be the team on the 13 that's going to say, well, we were undefeated. We're UCF.
Yeah.
And we're going to put the 2017 national championship thing in our stadium lit up in lights.
Yeah. So it definitely will happen, that unless they make some kind of like crazy rule that they say, no, this is not possible, there will be multiple SEC teams in the 12-team playoff. And the reason why is this: every SEC team is currently in an upward trajectory to it getting better. I don't necessarily fully believe that it's just like Alabama's getting worse. You could maybe argue that, and you know, we'll see at the end of this year. But I also think that every SEC team is getting better because the NIL money is going to help out with a lot of this recruiting. And we've just got coaches now that love the teams. That's the truth of the matter.
Yeah.
They're not in it for like some kind of, you know, grand paycheck. Heupel, is it Heupel or Heupel? Heupel seems to love Tennessee. You can make a strong argument that Stoops really loves Kentucky. We'll see if like Nebraska can pull him away. I think Nebraska is the only team that can pull him away. And I'm not saying just because like he's got any kind of connections there. I just think the opening so far, Nebraska can possibly pull him away. Auburn, when they get rid of Harsin, which will be this year, unless something magically changes, Auburn will probably reload with a really good coach. Who knows who that's going to be? But you know, Auburn is going to wind up going. Kelly, I'm not sure. Leach, I think Leach likes Mississippi State. Sam Pittman loves Arkansas. Whoever the next up man is at Alabama, I think they'll probably love Alabama. To be quite honest with you, Jimbo Fisher's a good coach. You know, I feel like maybe he'll get it all figured out at some point in the near future, maybe this year, maybe next year, who knows? Vanderbilt. I mean, you can't deny that Vanderbilt's already had some kind of change. Even as the worst SEC team, I take that back. Even as the second worst SEC team, Missouri, the guy that's at Vanderbilt. I think he was a Vanderbilt graduate, and he seems to love that team. Billy Napier is probably going to do good at some point. I don't know who I'm missing besides Drinkowitz. I don't know how long he'll stay there, but I also don't know how much Missouri really cares about their sports at times. But you have all these teams that are on upward trajectories, and so yes, there'll absolutely be teams that don't make the SEC championship game, but will make the playoff because they're just good enough to do it.
Yeah.
But I've also wondered this too, and maybe this is getting off into conspiratorial territory.
Well,
but what I'm thinking I've always wondered is is this to try to save the NCAA, this college football 12-man thing? Because there's been a lot of talks and rumors that eventually the SEC is just going to break off and be its own thing. I mean, if this is to save the NCAA, that might be why they're finally doing that. But
who knows?
I think there's a chance that the SEC just winds up going and being its own thing at some point,
or
that they just dissolve the NCAA. Period.
All right. Well, we'll table that for another topic. So we're going to stop right there for that segment. We're going to dive into some NFL stuff here in just a second. So we'll be right back. All right, we are back. So it's so I have Ryan back here with me. So we're going to dive into the world of the NFL right now. So first thing, Ryan, I just want to talk about, I saw this statistic. Thought it was just kind of interesting. Just want to get your thoughts and stuff on it. So it's talking about each of the last 16 quarterbacks to lose the Super Bowl in their debut, okay, have never made it back to the big game. So like Joe Burrow, he's the current one, but Jimmy Garoppolo, Jared Goff, Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, Colin Kaepernick, Rex Grossman, Matt Hasselbeck, Donovan McNabb, Stan Humphries, Neil O'Donnell, Drew Bledsoe, Chris Chandler, Steve McNair, Kerry Collins, Rich Gannon, Jake Delhomme. Some of those at the end that I mentioned were older quarterbacks and made it with just a team that got there. But like Colin Kaepernick, well, you know what happened to him. Rex Grossman, he didn't get there because of him being great. Matt Hasselbeck was getting up there. But Cam Newton, he just fizzled out with with Carolina. Matt Ryan fizzled out because Kyle Shanahan left. Jared Goff was just average, and now he's with the Lions. And Jimmy Garoppolo was just probably about a play short of making it last year. So that would have kind of thrown out this whole statistic, But so I thought that was a cool little thing that I saw, just interesting. It's kind of like how at one point, Heisman winning quarterbacks were never good in the NFL, and that's kind of changed a little bit. But yeah, so another thing I wanted to I guess we're just going to dive into this before we get into our top 10. So Luke had shared this, and I really want to talk to him about this also. But I want to talk about now. Rule changes that would instantly make the NFL better. Number one is taunting is not allowed. It's encouraged. So what's your thought on that?
Taunting is not allowed. It's encouraged.
Yeah.
I mean,
so I guess like the Tyreek Hill holding up the peace sign, things like that.
I'm going to preface this by saying I don't like Tyreek Hill as a person or as a player. He's a good player, but I don't like him. So I might have a little bias towards him. So I'm going to use someone. I'll think it's just anyone else. I'm not really big, taunting to me is not that big of a deal, period. I think there's probably extreme forms of taunting that are out there. And maybe, you could probably draw a line in the sand and say, don't cross this line. when it comes to taunting. But I mean, most players probably, I don't think most players would probably go that far anyways on a
Well,
lot of taunting things. But I'm not like, I think some of the taunting penalties are ridiculous.
let me ask you this. So, like the NBA, people make a joke about it now that it's not good fundamentally because of how the players whine and complain, how the players don't follow some of the simple rules by like traveling and things like that. They don't play defense very well because kids watch the NBA. They might not watch as much college, but they watch NBA. They want to watch LeBron. They want to watch the Greek. They want to watch Russell Westbrook. They watch these people and they see them do all this fancy dribbling and stuff like that, and they're like, "I'm going to do that too." Everybody wants to shoot a 3-pointer now because Steph Curry. Not saying, but he knows his fundamentals. But some people are just saying, "I'm going to shoot and jack that 3." He hits 45% of his shots. You hit 10.
Yeah.
So my thing is, if people start taunting and standing over people, doing things like that, you might get a penalty for that in high school. But you saw your role model do it.
Yeah.
So that's my thing with that. As a parent, I don't want my kid standing over somebody. Now I get it. He's 22 years old in the NFL. He's an adult.
I think one thing, like, I don't know, like there's already taunting going on during the game itself. It's just like, really, it comes down to what we see versus what's actually happening on the field at the same time. Because like, if you heard, any good cornerback or wide receiver, all the great ones, they talk about how much trash talking they do.
Well, but
during the
that's
game.
trash talking when they're lining up with each other. That's not sitting there looking at the bench and doing like
And
a
that's
throat cut
that's,
or
you
standing
know,
over.
and that's what I'm saying is like, it's the taunting that we see versus the taunting
There's-
that we don't see.
Well, but there's trash talking going on in the NBA when people are back.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that's different. Just like I'm sure there's parents in the high school that kids are down there cussing on the floor, but their kid is a saint to them.
Now, I could say that's the thing. Like, I'll be honest, I was just not much of a trash talker when we were playing football. Because I just, I don't know, I was just thinking about the play. It might come down to my own ADHD and everything. But I have been privy to trash talking. Like, people have trash talked me, and I've heard it as an offensive lineman. I heard it down the line. We had guys that would always just trash talk, and sometimes it'd be funny. Like, maybe they weren't even talking; they were just talking. So, but like I said, I think there's extremes of taunting. Like, I'm not a big fan of like the cutting throat thing. That probably indicates a lot of like weird stuff. But like, like things like wrestling, wrestling maneuvers or wrestling taunts, like some of those things are kind of, I think.
Well, but people will already do that stuff when they get a sack. They already do like a certain move, and right now they get a turnover and they go all the way down the field, the whole defense, and they do something,
Yeah.
So,
but there have been times that like just watching a game and something like that happens and like it doesn't look like there's going to be taunting. I'm sitting there wondering like, like sometimes like you can tell when a guy is on top of another guy. You could tell when like they're purposely standing over them or when they're just trying to get up. Like, I forget which game I was watching yesterday. Or maybe it was yesterday I was watching this game, and it wasn't the Arkansas game. I don't remember which game it was, but like, I think it might have been early on in the South Carolina Georgia game. Like, there was a play that kind of went out of bounds. It was hit out of bounds. Like he like that was just how the play ended. The guy was hit and he went out of bounds. And as the other guy kept getting up, like he just kept like kind of tripping over him. And from one angle, it almost looks like the guy's like, taunting him and, being disrespectful. But from like the other angle, you could tell he's literally just trying to get away from it. And sometimes you have to step over people for that to happen. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, man, is he about to get hit with a taunting penalty? Because it looked like that, but it didn't happen. So again, like I think there's a hard line, and I don't know if I would encourage taunting. To be honest, like I just unless you just wanted to be WWE about it.
yeah.
But I don't know if I would encourage it, but I would be more lax. But I also believe there's plenty of rules out there that we should maybe be a little bit more lax on, especially when you're playing my teams. My team commits the penalty.
All right, let's move on to number 2. It says no ties, play until there's a winner.
Yes.
Like, I agree with that too. Now, I said the thing is, the only other thing, and I see this just like with whole college football, is, you know, eventually people's bodies are going to get tired.
Yeah.
Bigger risk for injuries. And like college, you know, you're only going to have that player for 3 years, you know, where a Justin Herbert, a Joe Burrow, someone like that, this is their career. You're planning on having that quarterback for 15 years, you know, so that's my own thing. But again, I don't want to see a tie. The only time I want to see a tie was that last game of the season last year between the Raiders and the Chargers, because I wanted both of them to make the playoffs, but that's beside the point. So
Chargers.
Number 3, kicks that go through the uprights on kickoffs are worth 1 point.
I think was that like actually a rule at one point, something like that.
No, it's never been a rule.
Oh, I know what I'm thinking of. There's like an actual punt you could do, and if it's like very specific punt, and if it goes to the uprights, it's actually like a point or 2 points or something like that.
But I think that would lead to, for one, that solves this whole getting injured on special teams and having to call a fair catch within the 25-yard line. Like, you could try to score a point, you just miss an extra point, you try to kick and tie the game up.
Yeah.
You know, or you just tie the game up with an extra point, you try to kick it and take the lead with 4 seconds left. You know, so there's things like that. You know, then you're kicking it deep, so they're mostly likely going to do a touchback.
Yeah.
You know, so there's things like that.
Kicking to me is the most bizarre thing that happens in a football game. And let me explain myself for anybody that's like, why is kicking so bizarre? I can't tell you how many times I have listened to this phrase, or I've seen this phrase being spoken about multiple teams in multiple divisions of multiple football type sports. Oh, this kicker was hitting 60, 70-yard field goals like it was nothing. And then they go into the game and all of a sudden it's like they don't know how to kick the ball anymore when it comes to a field goal play. There's a lot, I know there's a lot that goes into that. This same kicker will then go out to, they will go out after whatever happens if they score any points, and they'll go to kick off, and that same kicker will kick it through the uprights. And you're wondering, what? So I don't know. Like, I don't know if I think there should be different rules for kicking. Worth 1 point. That's kind of interesting. Like, I could probably be convinced of that easily. If I had to kind of like rethink kicking, I would probably add in a rule about, like, there'd be like some kind of mutual agreement between teams. Like, look, we're going to do our best to kick out of the end zone. Like, that's our goal. And if like, we just want to go ahead and take that 25, or whatever, they, automatically stay on the 25, I don't see a problem with that. But I think there needs to be like some kind of agreement before the kickoff happens. Any kind of kickoff and everything.
I just feel like that should be a strategy of
if that's the route,
kick it short or not.
Yeah, but if that's the route they choose to take, like, I'm thinking of like some baseball things that happen. Maybe I'm thinking wrong, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if it's something like that, like, both teams have no intention, or at least the kicking team has zero intention of doing anything but kick it out of the end zone. I mean, then there's just like, to me, that's just wasting up people being on the field. Like, there should be like, okay, we're kicking out of the end zone. This is what we're doing, period. Then there's no point in just being out there. Now, like I said,
but there's no point of being out there if you're just going to sit here and wave the ball. You catch it at the 5-yard line. Take a chance of running it.
Yeah, that's kind of
like every single play. People have a chance of getting hurt, and everybody's bigger and stronger now, so they got to quit worrying about the special teams and people getting hurt and blindsided.
Yeah, and again, I would say, like, if you took down this route, that would be specifically every single time the ball is kicked, every single time. So not like, we're not talking about like at the beginning of the game saying this is our plan for the whole entire game. No, it's basically like you go to them like you do a penalty and say, what do you want to do? This is what we're doing. And then,
but
going from there.
That's different than what this rule is talking about, though.
Yeah, this talks about the 1 yard or the 1 point thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my thing. Is like, I'm saying that's my argument is like, I do think kickoffs need to change drastically in many ways. And I could probably be convinced of the point thing because it makes it a little bit more interesting.
right.
But at the same time, like, I don't know.
So
I
number
just like,
4, players are down where they fall, not where they are first hit. So this is pretty much the college rule. So if they fall down or they make a diving catch, they're down right there. They can't get up. You know, I don't know. I like that different aspect in NFL that they can get back up and run. Because I hate it in college that my guy made a diving catch 20 yards out because he broke a coverage, or he slipped and fell, and now he's down.
yeah, I like that. I think that's one thing that makes the NFL super unique and fun. It's like, knowing that a guy can just get up and keep going. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, like that's one thing I understand it in college. I get it, but I'm like, he fell down.
Yeah.
Just like today, Marcus Mariota fell down, got up, and then slung the ball real quick and got a first down. College, he's down because he slipped on a turf.
Yeah, that happened last year. One of the Arkansas games, Traylon Burks, he fell to the ground. No one touched him. No one was even around him. And it's like, if he could have gotten up, that would have been it would have been 6, but it wasn't because, like he said, he just slipped and fell. And you could tell he slipped and fell. He didn't fall over himself. He legitimately just tripped him. He tripped on the field. And so I would like it to be different. Yeah. I would like to be a universal football rule where if you're not touched, you can get up and keep moving.
Well, number 5, team celebrations after touchdowns are mandatory.
I don't know how you could, mandatory.
Yeah. So like my thing is, I want to know, like, what do you mean by that? Like you get fined or what? Because if you have somebody that's, like, if you're just meaning, well, just at least just spike the ball. Like, some people, they get so angry out there and they're happy that our team finally scored a touchdown that, they might do a celebration. If you just say, well, they can just spike it and that's their celebration. Some people don't have a celebration to do. Then you're going to have some coaches out there like the Bill Belichick's that are going to be like, we don't have time to worry about team celebrations.
Yeah,
you score that touchdown and get back over here.
Yeah, like if you're losing, I could not in good conscience force you to celebrate after a touchdown.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a good team that's
if you're down 34 to zip and you just finally scored a touchdown, why would you want to celebrate?
Yeah. But like if you're like, let's college football, if you're Georgia playing the University of Central Arkansas and Central Arkansas is losing, 100-0, and then they score a touchdown, knowing that they were going to be beat the whole entire game, knowing what this game was, it was just a paycheck for the school or for the sports program, then yeah, celebrate. But like if you're Alabama and Georgia and you're getting beat like 40-0, and it's like Alabama finally scored one, they're at the end of the game, Nick Saban's not going to allow that to happen.
Yeah,
he's just not. So in fact, last week, one of the things that he did after the Texas game was over with, it went viral for like a day or so. After the game, they're running out into the field, and like all of a sudden, the Alabama players are doing the horns down thing. He's very clear on the on the video, cussing at them, saying, "Cut that out."
Yeah.
So it's like, I can't make that mandatory. Like I could see how that can make the game a little bit more fun for the fans, but the kid fans. But if you're a hardcore fan and your team's getting beat, I'm not sitting there saying, yeah, let's celebrate.
All right. Number 6, quarterbacks don't get credit for the yards after the catch. So my thing is, I get it. You threw the ball 10 yards out and he ran 50 yards. I get that. But the thing is, the reason why that stat is in, I don't know if you know this, is because the fact that if I throw it right to you, you might overrun it, right? Yeah. If I throw it and you have to slow down and catch it, now they've caught up with you and you didn't get any yards after catch. But they've done that statistic because if a quarterback leads you away to get into the open to get those yards, that's why they've given that, because of the fact that a quarterback, if they're good enough, yes, I understand they might throw it into triple coverage and the coverage is blown and then person runs 20 more yards downfield, and I get it. So that's my thought, like that's the reason why that rule's in there.
Yeah. Like, again, like what we were talking about in an earlier segment, you talk about like stats for quarterbacks that are, that have really high stats. You look at someone in air raid offense, and a lot of their plays at times are, 2-3 yard little dump passes or shovel passes and everything. And their stats just go up, up, up because of how the offense operated. So like, I could see there being an argument for the yards after catch being taken away. I don't know how that affects like actually doing stats altogether. I'm not really like, it's kind of one of those things that I could live with or not live with. It's not really that big of a deal to me. Well, it would be kind of interesting though to see if they took away yards after catch, just like how the quarterback's yardage just goes probably drastically down.
Well, the last one was instead of quarterbacks, wide receivers get charged with interceptions if the ball hits them in the hand. Now, I don't know how you can charge them with an interception, but I feel like you could write down a statistic somewhere that you should have caught that.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like, it's the same thing like with fantasy football. I think he should have had that. Now my guy's been charged with, or the fact that the ball was tipped in the air because the receiver didn't get there. And now, and I saw it happen in the 49er game today. So, and I get that, but I don't know about how you charge with the receiver. I feel like that should be like a different.
Yeah. So like I saw that, like it actually happened yesterday in the Razorback game. KJ Jefferson threw an interception, but when he threw the interception, it went to the tight end Trey Knox. And the way it was on the money. It was a perfect throw. It wasn't too hard of a throw, but his hands weren't in the actual correct position to catch this type of ball that was coming at him. He should have probably been trying to catch it. Well, it doesn't really matter. Podcast people can't see me, but he should have probably been trying to catch it in a more of a diamond shape catch. Instead, it was like trying to catch it, it was like a basket and everything. His hands were like a basket. So it was like trying to let it come into his hands, but instead of like grabbing the ball, it bounced off his hands and it just, the defender was right there. And you could almost tell the defender was like surprised that he got the ball at first and everything. So like, when they said, oh, he's been intercepted, I think more or less it's like, well, that's not really his fault. That's how Trey Knox didn't catch the ball properly. And, that caused that to happen. So yeah, there's times where it's very clearly a quarterback is doing a bad job. Like, which game was it earlier today? Well, I think it was the Raiders game. There was one throw in the Raiders game that they were off kilter, and Derek Carr, it was very end of it. Derek Carr almost threw it an interception. So it's like, yes, there's differences. So yeah, like I think I kind of do wish there was like a break off and differences of what happens and, and everything.
All right, let's move into our last topic of the night. I was love to see into everybody's top 10. So maybe we can kind of revisit this briefly next time.
We'll have to revisit this briefly.
So top 10 teams. So give me, let me see. So who is your top 10?
Okay, so I don't know if I necessarily have like a full-on top 10, but I do have like a list in my head, and I'm gonna hopefully get these names or these I don't know if I'll get these dates correct and everything because I'm not good with dates and whatnot all the time. But top 10 is this is NFL, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. I really like the championship year for the Broncos. I don't know where I might just as a homer. Year? The one where they beat Green Bay. I thought that was a really good year for them.
So you're saying 98?
Yeah. I thought that was
So do
really
you have
good year.
are you having like a ranking of like this is your number 5, this is your number 10?
Let's say we're gonna go with like a top 5 and everything. Because I'll be honest, I haven't fully compiled this list because there's a lot of thinking that has to go into this kind of thing. And last night was sucked. So I like them. And then I'm gonna be a little bit cliche. These are top 5 teams off the top of my head. That team, the year that the undefeated Bears team in the 80s. I
Well, there
thought
wasn't
that
an
was
undefeated Bears team in the 80s.
the undefeated Bears team when they went undefeated and everything.
When was that?
I don't remember the year. That's the thing.
I didn't think there was never an undefeated team besides the Dolphins.
Oh, I thought they went undefeated.
No, the only undefeated team that went all the time was the Dolphins, besides the Patriots, who went undefeated and then lost.
The year that Bears team won the
You're
Super
talking
Bowl.
about the 85 Bears?
That's the one I'm talking about. The 85 Bears. I like them. And that was actually another thing that I wanted to bring up was just because they don't win a Super Bowl, does that take away a team being
That's up to you. This is your top
To
5,
me-
or this is your top 5.
to me, the undefeated Dolphins team absolutely gets a spot in there, even if they didn't win the Super Bowl.
Well, the Dolphins
That's-
did win the Super Bowl.
I thought they didn't win a Super Bowl.
They're the only team. I just said it. They were the only team to go undefeated and win the Super Bowl.
Okay.
The Patriots are the only team to go undefeated and then not win.
Yeah. I don't actually have, I got the Dolphins there. I don't have the Patriots there because of their cheating scandal. I'm going to be real with that. But I think there's some Patriots teams that I would maybe put up there and everything, but I'm still kind of.
Well, how about
outward
this?
on that.
I'm going to give my top 10 because it seems like I'm the only one that put thought to this.
No, I put thought into it. It's just
You just
like
said that off the top of your head and you didn't have time to think about it. 'cause
No,
it goes
I've
with
been
serious
thinking about this, but I haven't got it all compiled yet. That's what I'm
Well,
getting.
then how about you compile it and get it ready for next time?
Okay.
Because that's what we were trying to do for tonight. So, anyways, so I'm going to go into mine. So I'm going with the 2006 Colts is my number 10. And reason why is because I feel like they earn it. They went 12-4. They beat the Bears. The Bears is a pretty decent defense. They were 23rd in defense, but they were second in offense with points. And they only outscore teams by 4 points. So to go 12-4, technically 15-4, I think that puts them up there of coaching with Tony Dungy and the team that they had, and the fact that they, did fairly well, because they ended up going through, they beat the Patriots. That was the hump that Peyton Manning couldn't get over. They finally got over that one. 2013 Seahawks, the Legion of Doom.
I don't like that team.
I feel like that defense, as much as I hate it with the fact that they went through San Francisco and stuff that year and bad pass interference call that wasn't called. That defense gave up 14 points a game. The offense scored 26. They were only 8th. But I feel like that defense puts them at number 9. The 76 Raiders. They went 13-1. It's the only Super Bowl John Madden had. His team ranked 4th in offense, 12th in defense. And it was just a good overall team. And like I said, I can go in that later. 89 49ers are next. They went 14-2. They're first in points on offense, third in points on defense. Like I said, they just pretty much ran the table. The playoffs, they won 41-13. Conference championship, they beat a good Rams team 30-3. And then I know you're not going to like this, but they went through John Elway and the Broncos and won 55-10. Like, just dominated. The next team, I don't know if anybody would even think about this, but the 91 Redskins, who played the Bills, who were still young, trying to get over the hump of losing to the Giants in the wide right or whatever it was. but they went 14-2. They scored 30 points a game with Mark Rippon, which was first, and they gave up 14 points a game, which was second. Next is 96 Packers. They played Bill Parcells and the Patriots in the Super Bowl. They were first in points, 29 points a game, 13 points a game on defense, 13-3. Brett Favre was throwing touchdowns like crazy. That was my number 5, cracking my number 5. My number 4 is the 99 Rams, greatest show on turf. 13-3. They weren't supposed to be there. Kurt Warner wasn't even supposed to be the starter. 33 points a game. That was first. 15 points, which was fourth on the team. Like, and they went through there. Great Super Bowl, probably one of the greatest. Came down the last wire, inches from reaching out across the goal line. So I feel like
that's the one where the first Patriots cheating scandal came from, wasn't it?
No, that was 0-1.
Okay.
And I thought about that team, but
that's the cheating scandal kind
of. I said they lost to, I thought about the Rams team, the 0-1 Rams team, because they still did 31 points. They gave up 17 points. But anyways, my third is the 85 Bears. Now, they were second in points per game, 12 points per game on defense. They went 15-1 and were Super Bowl champs. Like I said, they also played the Patriots. And it's one of those things, I probably should put them at number 2, just because they made a Super Bowl shuffle before the season started. And it's one of those things, you're not cocky if you can back it up, and that's them. Like, who makes that and then does that? Anyways.
Yeah.
My other thing was the 84, the year before. 84 49ers, also 15-1. 30 points a game, which was second. 14 points per game on defense, which was first. And they went in there and played my mind went blank. Oh, they played the Dan Marino Dolphins. They also beat the Chicago Bears 23-0. Obviously, this is before the 85 Bears, but just a year before. And they beat the Giants, who were tough-nosed, 21-10 in the playoffs also. Now, my number 1, 72 Dolphins. First on offense, first on defense. They had 2 1,000-yard rushers, 14-0 Super Bowl chance. Like, there's probably other statistics where I could probably vouch for other teams, but you went undefeated. And it's the only team to do that.
So let me ask you 2 questions. The first one is, this one's about just kind of like teams overall. When do you start considering a team potentially a greatest team of all time? Is it during their season, or is it a couple of seasons after they have
I just think
past?
If they had, let's say the Jacksonville Jaguars built a team this year, 1-year contracts and stuff, and they went 15-2 and won the Super Bowl. But half of them retired, half of them went off to a different team to get bigger contracts. That's still a great team to me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not talking about dynasties or franchises. I'm just talking about that. Like,
yeah. Because since you talked about this, I have been thinking about the last year's Rams team. I know they had some problems and everything, but I liked how well-rounded they were. Ultimately, I do think Aaron Donald's one of the best defenders out there, and I think that helps out them. I think they had a really good offensive line, and just like their wide receiver corp was just super clutch when they need to be clutch, especially Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham when he was healthy, he was healthy all the way up until the first half of the
here's my thing about that,
or the second half of the Super Bowl game and everything.
They were 12-5. Like I said, they scored 27 points a game, but they also gave up 21 points a game with that defense.
Yeah.
They were in the middle of the pack on defense. So
Yeah.
I just don't consider that great. I don't care how good Aaron Donald is or what they had. The defense wasn't as great because they gave up so many points.
Yeah, and I know this isn't just a 1-year team. This is a multiple-year team. But also another team that I think about is the Buffalo's team that went, they didn't win a Super Bowl, but they went 4 years in a row.
Yeah. But see, that's my thing. Couldn't get over that hump. So,
yeah.
But like the 86 Giants, they were 8th in offense, 2nd in points. You know, they were kind of up there. The 92 Cowboys, which beat the Bills for the third. Well, the Bills lost for the third time. That was, you know, coming from like 2 years ago, I think, when the Cowboys had won one game. So then 2 years later, Jimmy Johnson taking over in those couple years to winning. I thought about the 49ers, but, you know, the 94, but I don't know. That doesn't seem like a top 10 to me, just
Yeah.
because that was just Steve Young finally getting over the hump. One team that was up there was the 98 Vikings, just because of how explosive they were on offense, and their defense wasn't bad, but they made it to the conference championship and lost. 98 Broncos are up there. The only thing about the Broncos was some of the stuff of, like, they did win 4 games with Bubby Brister when John Elway got hurt. And they did have Terrell Davis, 2,000-yard rusher. You know, so they were like right there on the outside of the top 10. I just didn't feel like their defense was strong enough to get them there, you know?
It's almost like the same thing. You know, I would love to be able to put in a top 10 list of all time. The 2016 Broncos, when they won the Super Bowl last, and everything. I would love to put them there, but Peyton Manning was hurt most of that season.
Well,
and I think
wouldn't
if he
even put
was
them there
fully,
just because the offense was just totally crap that year.
that's what I was going to say. If Peyton Manning hadn't been injured pretty much going into the season, and then stayed injured until it got to the very end, you know, who knows what the story would be different, how the story would be different.
So here's my
you know.
other teams, like the 2000 Rams. Defense gave up 10 points a game, probably best than all these ones that I've looked up. But the thing is, their offense was in the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
And it was Trent Dilfer, or not Trent Dilfer. Trent Dilfer, no, it was Trent Dilfer, I think. That was their quarterback. But it's like, I just don't think their defense led them there. I just don't think as a great team. You know, if I said best defenses, then yes, they would be up there. They would be up there with the Bears if we're picking just defenses. I told you about the Rams, but like I said, they lost. And again, should I give them an alternative because they lost to Spygate? The 2002 Bucks, their offense was 18th. Defense was great, but they played a very, very old Raiders team in the Super Bowl. You know, I just 2004 Patriots. I thought they were pretty good, but the scandal, the whole thing with the Eagles and stuff. The 2007 Pats, 16-0. Defense is pretty good, but they lost to the Giants.
And what do you think about the Chiefs when they went back-to-back Super Bowl those 2 years?
I don't
even though they lost one.
So
I don't like the Chiefs, so it's hard to say they're a great team of all time. But I mean,
well,
it's just like, the problem with the Chiefs is like
their defense was decent.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Like they were, so that year they were 7th. The offense was 5th, but they gave up 31 points to the Houston Texans in the divisional round. They gave up 24 points to the Titans, and technically one bad throw and then a lucky run outside, they beat the 49ers. You know what I mean? Like that's how I look at it. Like they lost to the Colts earlier in the year. Actually, they lost back-to-back games against the Colts and the Texans. And then they lost to the Packers, lost to the Titans, and then went on this big streak. And then it was, I don't know. Like I just not convinced with that. You know, even the next year, they were 6th in offense, 10th in defense. Like I said, they played the Browns, and we talked about it in one podcast. They should have lost that because of some bad calls. They did outplay the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen just wasn't ready. And then they got dominated by the Buccaneers, you know? So that's how I've seen it.
So what do you think about, like, you know, I know it's early season, so maybe we revisit this, but like, do you see any teams right now that, like in this season, that you could say this might be a team that goes high up on that list?
Well, I'm going to say this, and like I said, we can talk about this later
Yeah.
because we're probably going to have to end with Jimmy Garoppolo back. That's my team.
You really like him as the quarterback, don't you? I don't blame you.
Like he's a
I just-
winner.
Yeah. But we haven't, since you and I haven't actually really fully talked about this outside
here's
of the
my thing.
podcast.
Why doesn't Chiefs try to trade Mahomes? He
Yeah.
won a Super Bowl and lost one. Now Jimmy G didn't win one, but he's taken you to a Super Bowl and took you a play away from going to a Super Bowl. What else do you want? He's like 33-6 or something as a starter.
Yeah. So we haven't, like I said, when I was getting at just that second ago, I was like, we haven't really talked about this outside the podcast. And as someone who has Trey Lance as their fantasy quarterback, I'm really sad. I'm kind of hoping Jimmy Garoppolo's out there. It's because I'm like, I think I'm gonna try to pick him up and everything because he's a good. I mean, hey, I'm not gonna knock him. The guy's a good system quarterback. Like, if you want to say nothing else about him, he's good for that system. He knows it. It makes me kind of wonder if it does make me wonder if like they take off this year, which I think they're poised to take off, what that might mean going forward, even though no one wants a quarterback controversy. Ugh. But it kind of going to be kind of interesting to see what that is going forward.
Yeah.
And everything. I can understand that. I can see that. You know,
So
if I had to,
real quick. So we're going to wrap up. So who do you think?
It's hard not to. It's for me because there have always been like a second favorite team of mine, a sort of second favorite team of mine, even since I was a kid. Although I don't talk about this a lot, so I wouldn't consider myself a part of their fan base in any capacity. But it's hard not to look at right. It's hard not to drink the Bills Kool-Aid right now.
Yeah, that's one team out of the West or out of the AFC that I do like.
I almost felt like after watching their first game, and I can't wait to watch them tomorrow night play again. After watching their first game, it almost felt like, and I don't like to say this because the NFL is so competitive, and it is because every player's good or pretty much good anyways in their own right. But it almost felt like this is one of those things. Like it almost felt like this is the Bills to lose.
Yeah.
And it's just like it feels like they're put together. I really like Josh Allen's quarterback. He is my type of quarterback. I like those type of quarterbacks anyways. And I just like what they've got going. So I could see them being that team this year and a great all-time team.
Right, well, we will get into that next time. Hopefully we'll have everybody's take on maybe the first 2 weeks of the season, things like that. Hopefully we'll have David back with us. Hate that we're missing him. Hate that Luke and Ross had to leave us. So we'll try to get some more into some Marvel, some video games, and sports like that. Everybody keep listening to our podcast. Please also look into our polls. If you're on the Anchor website, it offers polls there where you can interact and answer questions based on some of our topics we've talked about, and also giving us some ideas for some future topics. But this is Randy and Ryan signing out. Thank you for listening.